Hey guys, what's up? It's Dave. Continuing on with the project Fourtrax 300. In a previous video, I disassembled the whole front end, got it all taken apart. I didn't have any parts at the time, but I have since received some wheel bearings and some ball joints. So I'm going to be working on the spindles, also sometimes referred to as the knuckle. But this knuckle is in rough shape. So I got a couple of ball joints I'm going to be replacing. A wheel bearing in there that I'm going to replace, and a couple of seals. And then we'll clean this thing up and we'll get this thing looking beautiful again and ready to go back on a bike. So let's get started. Alright, so here is this ugly spindle, knuckle, whatever. And we're going to clean this all up, make it look almost like brand new. And I don't know if there's any particular order to do things. I am just going to start by pulling the seals and the bearing out. And then we can pull the ball joints off. But let's start with just getting these seals out. And we'll see how tough this may or may not be. In the real world, this would just pop right out. I'm sure we're going to have to work it a little bit. Here we go. Alright, one seal out. That's on the back side. And I also have a seal here on the front side. Oh, beautiful. Alright, so we get the seal out, and that uncovers a C-clip in here. So I got to get the C-clip out, and then we'll push the bearing out through the outside, I suppose, from the back. So let's see if we can get that clip out of there. And get this where I can get a hold of it. Alright, I got it up out of the groove. Let's see if we can't get this thing out of here. Ah! Let me try that again. There we go. Alright, so we got the clip out, we got the seals out, and now I'm going to take this over to my press and just press this thing out. Hopefully it'll be just that simple. So let's go over to the press. Alright, so here's how I got the press set up. We've got the bearings going to come out this way, so I'm going to push it down through. I got this thing set up like this. And then I'm going to put just a socket right on the inner race. I don't have access to the outer race, so I have to push it from the inner race. Doesn't matter, this bearing's getting thrown away anyway, so this is just fine. Centered as best we can. And these things, they're not jammed in there too tight. This should come out pretty easily, I would think. Yep. Okay, it's coming right out. And there it is. Here's our old bearing. That was pretty easy. Alright, let's get these ball joints out next. Now I used the press to get that bearing out. That bearing wasn't in there too tight. It's perfectly acceptable to just, you know, hammer on it with a hammer, and just bang it out with a hammer. People have been banging bearings out with hammers for decades. It's perfectly fine. Personally, if I can avoid banging it with a hammer and use a press, I would use a press. But if you didn't have a press, you could just put a socket on there and pound it out with a hammer, no big deal. So the next thing I want to do is take off this lower ball joint. And this thing doesn't feel good at all. So this thing is shot. So this is a 17 mil. And now that is pressed in there pretty tight. You can also bang on that with a hammer to get it out. Again, anytime I can avoid using a hammer, I will. So I'll just use this tool to pop this thing off. Set this up like this. Now, usually I would pop these things off when they're still in the control arm. Right now there's nothing holding this thing in here, and when this thing finally does give way, it usually pops out. So I would be very careful using a tool like this, you know, kind of out of the vehicle. Because when this thing lets go, it's probably going to go shooting down to the ground. So just be mindful of it. Stay out of the way. I expect this thing to head down there pretty quickly. Yep, I do it the right way. All right, let's try this again. We're going slow and gentle, but it's gonna, I would expect it to be some kind of violent popping out of there. Woo! All right, no harm, no foul, just as long as you understand that that's gonna happen, it's not a big deal. Let's just hit the ground and shot across the garage. All right, and the only other thing left on this now is to press out this ball joint. So let me go get that piece and then we'll go attack this ball joint. Alright, so I got an E-clip here. I'm just going to kind of douse it with a little penetrating oil. Just to loosen things up a little bit. See if we can pop this clip off. Can you see? Here, let me move this camera and get a better view. Alright, here we go. Now I won't be standing right in front of you. Be careful that this thing doesn't go flying. Come on, okay. That's out. Now we want to push that through. And they're pretty tight. Maybe I just air hammer that thing right through. Alright, let me just drive it through with an air hammer. I think this will come out pretty easy. There we go. That's not bad. And so here we go. Let's back up a little bit. Now I got this knuckle all emptied out. I'm going to go put this in my blast cabinet and we'll clean it up a little bit. And then we'll come back and start putting some new parts in it. But that wasn't too bad. Okay, here we are. A couple of minutes, maybe 10 minutes in the blast cabinet. And look at this thing. Looks beautiful. Almost looks like it's brand new. So now it's nice and clean, easy to work with. I'm going to put some brand new parts in it. The whole thing's going to look very nice. I'm trying to figure out what order I should reassemble this thing. And I'm thinking once I get the bearing in it and the seals, I'm not going to be wanting manhandling it with the seals in there. So I'm going to put this ball joint in first. This ball joint is pressed in like this. And then once this is in, I can press the bearing in. And then the seals will be the last thing. And once the seals are in, I'll be done. So I'm going with the ball joint first. And let me see. Make sure I'm doing this right. This thing goes like this, I think. I'm going to double check and make sure that this thing actually does go in this way. I'm pretty sure it does. Maybe go back and, well, it can't go this way because that's where the axle is going to go. So it goes this way. So let's put this on next. All right, so here's my plan to press on this ball joint. I've got the ball joint press locked in my vise here, so it's steady. I've got the ball joint here. I'm going to use a socket to go over it. So this boot is in the way. So I'm going to take this boot off. Ahead of time. And the nut. So pull the boot off, and this way, while the socket goes on, I'm not going to be damaging the boot at all. So let's see how to figure this out. It's going in this way. It's going to go past flush. It's going to stick out here, so I got to put another cap on this side. So I got another socket. And so I'm thinking something like this setup here. So push this socket in. The ball joint will go and fill the cavity left by this socket. And just make sure this thing is going in straight and not crooked. Yeah, it looks a little crooked to me. So make sure that this thing is going in straight as possible. Something like that. This end is nuts. I need to put something flat and flush on this end, I think. I'm trying to get this thing lined up maybe a little better before I start applying pressure on it. I gotta work this thing. So I want this ball joint to go in here straight. And that's already kind of crooked, so that's no good. A couple taps to get started. That's enough to get it started. This is a little tricky, but you just got to work it. Just 3 hands. Come on. It feels like it's going in pretty good. See, this socket, this is more of a thin wall socket. And so if I can get the thin wall in here like that, I can have my sockets kind of backwards. Try it. I want to make sure I get this thing lined up as good as I can before I force it. That feels good. Okay. Yep, that feels good. and that bottomed out. So this was my setup: a socket pushing on a ball joint, another socket used as a cup, and just get it as straight as possible. And we've got a groove in there that I can get my C-clip in. And we're good to go. So let me get my C-clip on there. All right, let's get our E-clip on there. Whoa. Ooh, bitty. There we go. Yep. It's in all the way. Very good. Put our dust boot back on. And our castle nut. And there we go. So now we can put our wheel bearing in and our 2 seals. So that's next. Over back to the press, and we'll put the wheel bearing in. Okay, over here at the press. Now this is just going to press in here. It doesn't have to go all the way through. So I can set this on a flat surface like this. So I'm going to set this here. Get the bearing in place. I'm going to set a piece of flat stock on top of it. And I'm going to start pressing and see if we can get this to go in nice and straight. And it's going in nice and easy. Okay, so that's part of it now. What we have to do now is we have to get it inside there. We have to sink it below this. So what I've done, I mean, this outside race is so thin, it's hard to find something that's the perfect size that will push on this outer race, which is what you want, and actually fit inside there. So what I'm going to do is use the old bearing to force it in there. But then if this is sunk down in there, 3/8 of an inch, it's going to be stuck in there, and we're going to have to try to have a problem getting it out. So what I've done is I've cut it for a relief. Now I can actually pinch it. So I think I can use this to sink this new bearing all the way in. Then I'll be able to kind of pinch this and lift it out no problem. Alright, it's bottomed out. Let's see as far as it'll go. Hopefully, oh yeah, so I was just able to pinch this together and lift it right out. And so there's our new bearing in at the perfect depth. Got the nice clean ring groove in there. Now let's go pop the ring in it. Okay, and back at the vise, I've got the E-clip. See if we can get this thing in here without poking anybody's eye or losing an eyeball. Here we go, ready? Almost. Come on. Let's try again. Let's try again here. Oh, there it is. Beautiful. So that's in there. We've got to get the seal. We'll put the seal on next. I'm going to put a little bit of grease in here to aid the sliding in of the seal. Let's see if I can push this in just by hand. So this will give seal, something to slide on, hopefully. Let's see if we can get this on by hand without having to hammer on it or anything. Okay, this is not the correct seal. Let me get the correct seal. There we go. One in there, not very easy. Let's see if I can just find something flat now and tap it the rest of the way. Now let me just try putting this flat stock on here and see if we can't tap it gently in place. I think that's good. It's nice and flush. And now we've got an inside seal as well. A little bit of grease in here to aid in the sliding in of that seal. Alright, let's see if we can get this other seal in here. And then we will be done with this knuckle. Alright, this seal is a little more tricky. It's got kind of a protruding lip on it. So I can't put a flat bar on it. Although it's sliding in nicely by hand. That's it. Got this one in by hand. Even better. All right. Let's take a look at this baby now. So here we got a brand new ball joint. Got brand new seals. Brand new bearing. Everything's nice and clean. Looks good. Beautiful. Okay. Now one other thing I've got. Don't go anywhere. Is I got this hub. And this hub is looking kind of dirty and grimy and rusty. So I'm going to put this in the blast cabinet. I think I might tape up this surface here so they don't damage it. But let me clean this up and then we'll put this together with the knuckle and we should be in good shape. So let me clean this up. Okay, here we are. I'm all done. We've got both knuckles all rebuilt. Bearings, bushings, ball joints. Cleaned up the hubs. All greased up. Fits together nice. Beautiful. All right. That went well. No damaged parts. Everything went together nice. So I'm happy with that. That's it for today, but we will be continuing on, so stay tuned, and thanks for watching.